Tonight we're in Dartford in Kent, at the grammar school where Mick Jagger was a pupil. Welcome to Question Time. And good evening to you at home, good evening to our audience here. Welcome to our panel. The Conservative International Development Secretary, Justin Greening, Labour's Deputy Leader, Harriet Harman, Liberal Democrat peer, Shirley Williams, the broadcaster and Observer columnist, Victoria Coren, and the historian, David Starkey. And Roger Brindle has our first question. Mr. Brindle.
Will the clowns and fruitcakes have the last laugh?
Will the clowns and fruitcakes have the last laugh? Of course, UKIP as described variously by the Prime Minister and by Ken Clarke. Shirley Williams.
Well, they may have the last laugh, but I think they have been played up a huge amount in the press. It's worth remembering that they still haven't got a single parliamentary seat of any kind. And I think a great deal of what they're trading in is the feeling that people have, understandably, in the middle of a serious economic problem, of being really frustrated and disappointed. And what essentially I think UKIP does, and I've read their manifesto and it's a very curious one, is to trade on that. I don't think they're going to last that long. I may be wrong, but I think that what they're doing essentially is trading on protest, and that they don't have anything very solid to say about the problems that really face the country.
David Starkey.
Well, I detect a powerful note of jealousy in what Shirley has just said, because, of course, traditionally, the Lib Dems were the receptacle for rubbish votes and the protest vote. So, obviously, there's a certain degree of jealousy. I don't think they will have the laugh in this election. I think they may very well have a very large laugh at the next general election. And I think they represent something much more profound than what Shirley has said. They represent a sense of deep-seated disenchantment. Most of you are political junkies. Most of the country isn't. And if we just look at this panel now, forgive me whilst I go round, we have an hereditary journalist, comedian.
That's how it works, it's hereditary.
Indeed, we have an hereditary broadcaster,
no, you
presenter.
Don't.
Yes, you do.
Don't.
No, let's
anyway,
go
leave
around.
me out of it.
Talk
about
come on. You're very much part of this. You two are the daughter of a line of Harley Street physicians. You're a cousin of Antonia Fraser. You're Vera Britton's daughter. Now, in other words, there are only two of us here who came up from NAT, Justine and me, and we're both on the right. There is this awful sense of politics as a cosy club. Now, you can get away with it when you've got an aristocracy, okay, in the past. If you're also pretending to be a democracy, then this sort of cosy, inbred, liberal, pat on the back, it's all right. The Ken Clarke remark, the contempt for the mere orders, saying things that rather a lot of people believe.
I think we should respect the views of people who are thinking of voting for UKIP, and I don't think we should simply discount their concerns. I do think that as they have become a bigger party in a sense, they will get more scrutiny, and I think people will start to work out for themselves whether they feel there's any substance underneath some of the rhetoric they've heard. But I think the bottom line is today's elections are about your local council and who's going to be providing your local services, how much you're going to pay them for that. And I think time after time you can see that Conservative councils have lower council tax. I think you've had a 3-year freeze here, better services, and it's actually in tune with what people want. They want good quality services, but they don't want to have to pay the earth for them. They want them to be affordable. And I think that's really what this election is about, and I hope that people will go out and vote for good quality services and low council tax.
The election's over, so you don't need to do that pitch. But just tell me this: your colleagues in the coalition, Nick Clegg, says the Tories are pulling to the right in an attempt to appease people because of UKIP. True or false?
I don't think that's true at all. I think it goes back to what David said. I think once you start getting really disconnected from the public and you start just discounting what people say, I think you get yourself into a dangerous position. I think.
So was the Prime Minister wrong to call them fruitcakes, loonies and closet racists?
Well, I'm not going to make a judgment about UKIP voters, but I think at the end of the day, I think we have been willing to look really seriously at what voters in Britain are saying, and I think a lot of things we're trying to do as a government is responding to that on cost of living, on making sure that services are good, but also fixing our financial problems. And I think, as I said at the beginning, I think as people take more of a look at UKIP, they will be able to form their own opinion, really, about whether there's any substance underneath the policies.
Okay.
I personally don't think there is, but I think it's up to voters to decide, obviously.
You, sir, in the third row.
I think whoever's in power, the people would like that they just make good on their manifesto, whether it's UKIP, the Raving Loony Party, Conservative, that they keep to their pledge of their manifesto, because it seems that we're all disenchanted that you get our votes through the manifesto and then everything changes after.
Do you think that's one of the reasons UKIP seems popular?
Yeah.
Because they have
very hard to make good on their manifesto, but the major parties need to honour their pledge, basically.
And you?
Yeah, I completely agree with David Starkey.
I think that's the first time that's ever been said.
The political class, they just represent something alien to most people, and UKIP are something that people can relate to. They're plain talking, they mean what they say, and they've got, they're just genuine. And what the Conservatives tried to do to UKIP, like that smear campaign, was trying to go through their Facebook and Twitter accounts, trying to find the stuff, and they found like 0.3% of their candidates with rubbish on them. If you went through Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, you probably find exactly the same thing. I think it's disgraceful, and I voted Conservative for general election, but I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again, and you'll be grovelling for UKIP the next election.
The lady here in the front.
I have been able to vote now for coming up to 50 years, and I can honestly say that this period of time, I have never met so many people who don't know which way to vote. Everybody in the past was all very certain how they wanted to vote, and you had a small handful that were the don't knows. But now, having been a Conservative all my voting life, I don't know who I want to vote for now. And I think people and UKIP are going to gather up the votes of those people who have had enough with the whole of the parties that are available.
This lot.
And it will be a vote for, we don't know what you're doing and we don't know what he's doing, but we might as well vote for UKIP.
Did you do that today?
I did.
Okay. and the man at the very back there on the gang.
Can we have a straw poll, David?
No.
Oh.
A man up there.
Oh, spoil sport, right.
As a local resident, I've heard very little from any of our local MPs with today's election. Nigel Farage from the UKIP was in Dartford Town Centre today speaking with residents. He's going to win votes from you if you do not get out and speak to your local residents.
Okay. Harriet Harman.
Well, I met many people around and about on the campaign trail saying that they were thinking of considering voting for UKIP, or they were definitely going to vote for UKIP. And what I definitely got the sense of is that it wasn't because they wanted UKIP's economic policies and they wanted them to be in charge of the economy, or they thought Nigel Farage would do a good job of running the health service, but basically, as you said, a feeling of disaffection, disenchantment. And one couple I met said, I don't agree with most of what UKIP said, but I'm making a protest. But I think that doesn't mean we should write that off or call it a rubbish vote. I think we should listen very seriously if people are feeling disaffected and disenchanted. And it is a challenge to us. It's a wake-up call for us to actually listen to people who feel that times are hard and wonder whether any of us have actually got the answers. And that is a task for us to respond to that challenge. But thank you very much, David. Don't you patronise me and tell me I've had anything handed to me on a plate. I tell you, if you are trying to be a woman in politics, there was only 3% women in the House of Commons. When I came into the House of Commons, it was a men-only club, and I had to fight to actually get myself in and to get other women in too, so women could be spoken up for. So thank you very much, but don't condescend to me on that.
May I just make one response? May I just make Ladies and gentlemen, may I just make one response? I wasn't condescending, I was describing. You did indeed fight for women, but you fought most effectively for middle-class women like yourself. Because exactly the way female liberation has worked, and I wholeheartedly support it, is disproportionately in favour of rich, well-connected women like
Absolutely not. That is absolutely not.
It is absolutely true.
No,
you're both
David,
wrong.
You've made I fought for maternity pay and leave for women whose husbands actually couldn't afford for them to be staying at home off work.
Girls in the city do best out of that, like my sister-in-law.
No, I fought for childcare for women.
She does best out of it. Rich women in the city
That
make
is
this
so
like mad.
wrong. That is so wrong.
It's so right.
What about equal pay for women who are actually doing ordinary manual jobs and didn't get the same pay as men? That is an absolute rubbish, and that's why I'm in the Labour Party and not in the Tory Party.
We'll go back to UKIP.
Maybe go back to the question.
Thank you. We'll go back to UKIP. And I want to go to the man in the green shirt, then I come to you, Victoria. Yes, the man in the green shirt there. Yes, sir.
We won't know till tomorrow about UKIP. And most of the main parties don't seem to keep their promises anyway. They make these promises, they don't keep them, or they change their minds, or they put them off till the next election or something like that.
And you include UKIP in that as well, or not?
I did vote, yes, but I didn't vote UKIP.
But do you include UKIP, or do you think they do have policies?
Well, I do include.
You do include them?
Yes.
Victoria Coren.
Well, look, I'm still stunned by David Starkey's opening comment. It's true, I became a writer because my father was one and I wanted to impress him.
And your brother is.
It seemed noble and fun. I didn't realise it would make people vote UKIP. It's a level of responsibility I'm going to have to think about. And it's true, I mean, few people, you must be sympathetic with Harriet Harman, because few people have done as much for working class women as you have yourself, David. But...
Sorry, I really won't be patronised. My mother scrubbed floors for a living. And
yes,
when I have
and you've done so much for women since. Anyway, I'll carry on. I think the problem with calling people clowns and fruitcakes, this panel accepted, I was very angry to hear the people from UKIP described as clowns and fruitcakes, just because I think it is the lowest form of political discourse. To call your opponents mad is lazy and annoying, and it's a refusal to engage. It's just like saying don't vote for UKIP, they're ugly. It's childish and it's annoying. I also don't like the denigrating of the protest vote. A lot of people were saying, oh, but it's just a protest vote. Like that's nothing. We live in a democracy. It's great that we can have a protest vote. The ballot box is where people should make their opinions felt. Violent protests aren't wanted. Peaceful protests are ignored. Protest votes are what it's all about.